What's up, guys? Milkmaster69, there you go, just in time. Yeah, I am actually starting a little bit later than usual. We've been doing I start at 10 a.m. The hidden with the sub at Twitch. Thanks, man. What's up? What's up? What's up? But yeah, we're gonna start very, very soon, and we're gonna have fun. Today's gonna be a fun one. Guys at YouTube, you already saw the thumbnail, hopefully, so you know what we're gonna be doing. Twitch people, you'll know very soon. I wish Twitch allowed us to do a, what's the word? Like a thumbnail as well. So, Meal, yes, you're on time. Arton says, I was watching a ZBrush tutorial. Nice. Which one was it, Arton? Remy, what's up, man? Welcome to the chat. Complete guide to ZBrush on Udemy. Nice. Yeah, that one was one that I did when I was back at an Nexttude. Really proud of that one. That one was a fun one. I probably should do another one with a new thing soon for the site. Says, hi Ava, greetings from Italy. Ciao, ciao. Uno di miei migliori amici è italiano e vive a Bari. He's one of my best friends. We pretty much grew up together here in the neighborhood, and he taught me a little bit about Italian, so I can hear it and I can sort of like read it a little bit. It's kind of similar to Spanish, so, but yeah, he lives in Bari. Or near Bari, I think. Is he on ArtStation? No, no, no. He's actually a physical therapist. So he's not an artist. His name is Alessandro. Solid Mango, what's up, man? The leg, it's going okay, but this week was a difficult week, to be honest. Very, very difficult week. It's healing okay. I actually went to the doctor 2 days ago, and he said that it's healing nicely. So I just need to wait at least 3 more weeks to see how things are going, and maybe a couple more. It depends, but so far we're doing okay. Just 3D print yourself a new one, yeah. I 3D printed. I don't have it right here, but I've been 3D printing small little things to attach to my crutches, like a cell phone holder, and like a hook to attach things to it, like a bag or something. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. I'm not gonna not gonna deny that. Very well. Just 5 more minutes, guys. We're gonna start very, very soon, finalizing some little details. Cool, cool. Is the music volume fine, my friends? How are you? Do you see, or how do you hear it? Awesome. Okay, we're 2 minutes away, but I'm actually quite ready. So, should we start? Should we go live? I think we should. What's up, guys? How is everyone doing? I hope everyone is having a great time. We're about to hit the weekend, of course, so it's gonna be a fun one today. We are going to be sculpting a Logan, also known as Wolverine. Or if you're in Spain, and you use the Spain name for this guy right here, which is Lobesno. I don't know what you guys are doing over there, to be honest. Like, it's just... That's not the way to rename or translate the character's name. But anyway, hopefully everyone is having a great time today. Let's go straight here to today's 3D workshop. Today we're going to be working on the, as I mentioned, Logan right here. We're gonna be doing a bust. So you guys know that in the collectibles on the Vital, yeah, right? Oh, people are gonna get upset about this one, Camilo. So do you guys know Dragon Ball, right? So Dragon Ball, super famous series all around the world. Goku, Vegeta, all of these guys. They have this powerful power called the Kamehameha, right? It's just like the traditional Kamehameha and stuff like that. Well, I don't know who in Spain thought it was gonna be a good idea to just rename that thing, and instead of calling it Kamehameha, they call it Onda Vital. It's like Vital Wave. So imagine Goku screaming Vital Wave every time he does the Kamehameha. It's just like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And they will defend it. Like, if there's someone from Spain right here, I know he's gonna defend it. Like, yeah, that's what we do it. That's the right way to do it. No, it was so easy to just keep it as Kamehameha. I agree, you guys have some really good translations, but that one's not a good one, man. It's not a good one. Anyway, so as you guys know, in the collectible like space, there's a bunch of statues and figures. We just did our superhero course not so long ago, and I want to do a bust because it's gonna be difficult to do the whole character. So a bust could be either just the head and the shoulders. We might be able to do a little bit of the hands. I'm of course gonna be focusing a little bit more on the mask, which is a crazy mask, and it's gonna be a little bit tricky. But yeah, today we're gonna be sculpting Logan from scratch. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the Kamehameha or if it's the Henki Dama. One of those, but they use the freaking like Onda Vital every now and then. On the side note, it would be totally cool seeing you do a Goku bust sculpt. Yeah, that could be another one later on. I don't do a lot of like stylized anime things, to be honest. But actually, I'm working with a student on some mentorships, and he is doing a Vegeta, so we're working on that one as well. Let's see. So I'm gonna start here using the Loomis method of like the head blocking, where you just carve in the main shapes of a male face. Remember that the male face has this sort of like skull round effect, and then it has like a tapered thing going here towards the front. Logan always struck me as a guy who has a short head, so he doesn't have like this super long head. A very quick comparison could be someone like Adam Driver, right? If you take a look at Adam Driver's, he has a long face. Like, it's very obvious to see that his face is quite elongated. And I know Hugh Jackman has been the portrayal of Wolverine forever. And as you can see, his face is not extremely long. It's a little bit more sort of like compressed, right? So it's more squarish, more, yeah, it's smaller in that sense. Let's see. Divyam have not stopped thinking about Milkmaster here. Matty Painting says, hey, I loved your anatomy course. You're a great teacher. Thanks, man. Yeah, see, the anatomy course was very interesting. It's one of the courses that I've always wanted to do, and I always try to teach anatomy when I'm teaching characters, but that was the first, like, real, completely in-depth anatomy course that we've done, and people have been liking it quite a bit. It's way more theory heavy than other of the courses that I've done. So there's a lot of like explanations and an understanding of like muscle insertions and things like that. But I think it's really, really good. No, I'm not from Brazil, my friend. I am from Mexico. I'm Mexican. I can understand a little bit of Portuguese as well, because, you know, it's similar in certain sense to Spanish. Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, they're all part of the same Latin sort of like a root. So a lot of words are very similar, a lot of structures are very similar. And sometimes if someone's speaking Italian and someone's speaking Spanish, they can understand each other. And we got Sarn here. What's up, Sarn? Welcome. So yeah, okay, let's do just the bust. I think a bust is gonna be good. It's what we're gonna be able to cover in the amount of time that we normally live stream. But hey, who knows? Maybe we'll go a little bit longer. My leg has been improving, as you guys know. So, see, the funny thing is, it's very uncomfortable. It's a little bit uncomfortable to work here. Let me explain. So this is a side view. This is me, and normally I'm one of those people that crouches down to like work, right? So this is my normal sort of like sitting position. But now with the leg, I actually need to be doing this sort of movement here, and my leg is like straight up underneath the, what's the word, underneath the desk. So all of my weight is here on my butt, and it starts hurting after a little while. So yeah. But it's been hurting less and less. That's your regular pose with the leg or without the leg? Do you use the drawing feature in PureRef? I've been using it a little bit. They just released it. This was like, what, like 3 weeks ago or something? But no, during the course, during the anatomy course, I use Photoshop to do all of my drawing. With the legs, nice. Okay. Okay, let's bulk him up a little bit here. I'm gonna start adding some volume here in the trapezius muscle. And at this stage of the construction, as you can see, I'm focusing more on the gesture of the character, like on the build of the character. So I'm not worrying about eyes or like anything. It's just like where most things are gonna be. Let's make him angry. Wolverine is always angry. Poor guy. Poor guy. He's got a wide chin. Go. We're gonna have the pit of the neck, which is where the clavicles are, the sternum. Oh, you guys want to know a fun fact? So on Wednesday, I went to the doctor to get my leg checked up. I got another X-ray and everything to not the cool X-ray, just like a traditional X-ray, to get to see how they're called sesamoideus bones, sesamoideus, which are bones that are sort of like enclosed by tendons or ligaments. They don't serve any function. They're not any sort of like insertion point for anything. They're just like there. Some people have 1 or 2, some people have like 10 or 12, and they're not considered within the count of the normal amount of bones that we have. So if you look up the anatomy books, it's going to tell you that we have 210 bones. But there are some anatomy authors that say that humans have 208 bones because they count the knees as sesamoideus bones because they fulfill that sort of what's the word, concept where they are enclosed by tendons and ligaments and they're just like floating there, and they get developed later in life, right? Like you're not born with knees, with kneecaps. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Which book did you read or recommend to learn anatomy? So if you want to learn artistic anatomy, I strongly recommend the George Bridgman Anatomy for Artists. This one, Constructive Anatomy, is really good. I also recommend the Bernd Hogarth Anatomy. Both of them, this one, Dynamic Anatomy, they both explain a lot of like the volumes, the forms, the functions of the muscles from an artistic perspective. So these ones are really good to do that. However, if you wanna go like deep into anatomy, there's Grey's Anatomy. And I know it's gonna sound funny because it's the name of the show, but that's actually the name of the book. So Grey's Anatomy is an anatomy book that med students use to learn about all of the anatomy of the body. It's like a freaking Bible. It's like huge. Look at this. Look at this freaking thing right there. So Grey's Anatomy is really good. There's another one, but I don't remember the name of the author. But again, these are medical anatomy books. So unless you want to really go deep into like the naming conventions and the specific structures of each bone and muscle, you really just need the artistic anatomy. What are the requirements for getting into the industry? Well, a good portfolio is usually the first step, my friend. We're gonna have portfolio review next week, by the way, guys. So if you guys have not submitted and you want to submit, you can go and submit to our Discord channel. David here is gonna share the Discord link in just a second. But yeah, like the industry is a tricky place, guys, because a lot of people get there through sheer force of will and a lot of hard work. Some people create their own stuff, right? They become indie developers, and that makes them part of the industry. Others will be lucky and know someone in the industry, maybe some family members. Now we're getting to the time where people who started like indie studios back in the 90s and now are big studios, that was 30 years ago, right? So they now have kids. And if those kids pursued the artistic careers and they became developers as well, then they're going to have an easier time because their dads, their uncles, everyone's going to be there. So they're going to get that sort of like network support as well. So there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but knowing the skills and having a strong portfolio is definitely step one for being part of the industry, man. What is a good portfolio for a character artist? That's a great question. If I'm hiring for a character artist, I want to see that you can do male characters, female characters, creature characters, like monsters and things like that. I want to see a good understanding and fundamentals of anatomy, like your anatomy should be on point. Retopology should be on point for animation deformation. Good textures. And if you have both stylized characters and realistic characters, that's a huge plus because that shows that you have quite a bit of range, right? Samandar, what's up, man? Juan Guerra as well. Juan Guerra tattoo. I've been thinking about getting a tattoo. My wife wants to get a tattoo as well. I don't have tattoos. I might. There was one, but this one's very geeky. But I love it. This one right here. It's all the traditional dice from D&D, like here on the forearm. I think that looks sick. I wouldn't do it like this with like the little sword or anything, but this one right here, or this one that looks a little bit more geometric, I kind of like this design. Are you feeling all right? I heard you broke your hand. No, not the hand. I broke my knee. That sounds good, Juan. That sounds good. Okay, so as you can see now, we have a good sort of like a build-up of the main forms of the character here. Like, I think the head is a nice size. I do feel like the torso is a little bit on the small side of things. So just gonna like punch it up a little bit. We might need to do a little bit of the latissimus dorsi here. We're gonna cut a lot of this later on because we're gonna do we're gonna use like the knife curve to clean the shapes, right? To get like a cleaner cut there for the bust. But just like having it close to there, it's a good idea. I really like this design where the little suit is going a little bit over the shoulders, so we might incorporate that. And the cut's gonna follow pretty much that line. And let's go right here. Could you possibly do a tutorial on the extent of baking high to low, especially with environment pieces? I struggle to tell how much will be normal map and how much needs retopo. Well, we're going to be covering that quite a bit on the new course, which is going to be the environment course. But I do have quite a bit of baking videos here on the channel, Marius, if you want to check them out. The general rule of thumb is, if it changes the silhouette of the object, like if it's something that modifies how the object looks from a silhouette perspective, you retopo. Because you need to capture that silhouette change. Otherwise, the normal map is not going to be enough. You can bake it down, but it's just going to look very weird and flat. And if it's if it does not change the silhouette and it just changes the surface of the object, in those cases, you usually use bakes to bake it down. So, for instance, let's say you have a column, right? Like a Greek column. This is your Greek column right here. All of the details from the Greek column, all of the carvings and things like that, easily bake it down. Like you just bake everything down and just keep it a very low poly cylinder for the whole things. But if you have a Greek column, and at one point you add like big cracks, right, that destroy parts of the element, a very damaged column, all of those things, since they change the silhouette, right, like we would not be seeing this thing right here. Since they change the silhouette, you do want to capture that silhouette. Again, that's again like a general rule of thumb for environments. Let's go back to this one right here. There we go, Jose Pablo, JP, welcome, man. Thanks for the sub. Let's increase the resolution a little bit, and let's start working a little bit on the face anatomy over here. So the first thing we're gonna need is, of course, we're gonna need some eyes. There we go. Now, I got a couple of months ago a very cool shader for eyes. This one right here. It was like $5. I strongly recommend you guys get it, to be honest. It's a material, it's a matte cap. So the cool thing is I could just go over here to MRGV and say color fill object. There we go. And then we go back to our basic material. And now that thing looks like glass, like an eye, pretty much. So it gives you I don't know, like a nicer effect, I would say. So the eye is gonna be right around there. And we are going to mirror this. There we go. Now, the big question here is, do we do all of the eye anatomy and stuff like that, or do we just focus on basic shapes and do the head? And the thing is, most superheroes, the suits that they have and the way that they're built is very like close to the face. Right? Like all of these things right here, all of these wrinkles, that means that the mask would be super thin, super small. So in that case, if you build a good face with all of the wrinkles and things, it becomes easier to do the rest of the elements later on. So I'm just gonna like do pretty much the face as if he had no mask, and the mask is just gonna be like an extrusion later on. Is the Blender good for sculpting? Yes, it's good. Industry standard, it depends. I would say it is, to be honest. Blender has been getting, like, did you guys see the video that I uploaded yesterday about the new Blender 4.2 EB thing that they've been adding? It's crazy. It's freaking crazy. I'll show you in just a second, but Blender is definitely like advancing quite a bit. So my advice about Blender, guys, is you should ask yourself the question, what do you want to do, right? If you want to do your own collectibles, if you want to do your own little indie game, or not even little, like it'd be like a big indie game, like if you want to do that sort of like approach, hobby approach, things like that, Blender is more than enough. You don't need to get ZBrush, you don't need to get Maya, you don't need to get anything. Like, with just Blender, you're going to be able to do so much stuff. However, if you want to work on Riot, if you want to work on the Blizzard, if you want to work on Activision, if you want to work on a lot of different like gaming companies, most of them will be using a traditional DCC application. Some of them will be using 3D Studio Max, some of them will be using Maya, some of them will be using Modo. Like, every single studio will have its own sort of like pipeline, and you need to adapt to that pipeline, right? A lot of studios nowadays, they don't care too much, especially for modelers and texture artists. As long as you deliver the asset, they don't really care where it's coming from. But there is a point to be made about making sure that you're compatible with the pipeline. Because imagine you're working on Wolverine, right? And you're sculpting it on Nomad Sculpt for the iPad. If you need help, if someone needs to correct some of the things about your anatomy or something, and they don't know how to use Nomad Sculpt, it's going to be very difficult for them to take control of the tablet and give you feedback. The same thing happens with DCC applications. If you're using Blender and everyone in the studio is using ZBrush, they will be able to pinpoint what things you're like messing up, but they might not be able to just sit on your computer and do the changes for you or show you how to do it because they're not familiar with the environment, right? So that's why it's very, very important to be in a position where you merge well with whatever production pipeline they're using on any particular studio, because that's going to be the way they're going to be able to help you, or you're going to be able to help them, right? So again, remember, everything is a teamwork at the end of the day. As Chiro says there, yeah, Blender is an excellent way to, what's the word? Blender is an excellent way to start. Like, every time someone, especially again nowadays, my friends are having kids, and some of their kids are like 8 years old, 10 years old, those who started having kids earlier in their life, and they tell me, hey, my kid, he loves Roblox, he loves Fortnite, and he wants to make video games, can you teach him? Of course, I'm not gonna like drop it and bring freaking ZBrush or Maya into their lives. It's just too much at that point. But I can say, hey, yeah, sure, here's Blender, tell him to download it, try to make a barrel, try to make a shovel, try to make something simple, right? And he tells you about the industry, it tells you like how things work in general as a 3D artist. So if you try it out at Blender without spending a cent and you don't like it, well, there you go. You got information there. Now you know that that's not something that you like. Which is also quite important, because a lot of people, they commit a lot of time to, what's the word? To 3D before they realize they don't like it. And that can be quite frustrating as well. Chiro Jules, what's up? Where? There you go. Yeah, Chiro, there you go. Thanks for the follow, man. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, people nowadays are learning a lot of, especially digital skills, right? Because there's a lot of skills in life that it's difficult to learn at such an early age. But I've seen people, like kids learning coding, kids learning, again, 3D, things like that, very, very, very young. But here's the thing. A little bit of my opinion about that. It's fine if they want to learn it at a small age. But I always tell their parents, it's like, hey, he's a kid. Like, don't push him. Like, he shouldn't be producing like top pieces at this age. Let him learn and let him explore and stuff like that. But there's other skills that you need to develop as a kid as well. And you should not be like, we're in a very bad situation as a society if I need to tell you, if you want to be a 3D artist, you need to start at 10 years, like 10 years old. Like that's ridiculous. That's not what you need. So even if you did not start when you were 10 years old, that doesn't mean that you're not gonna make it. So don't put too much pressure on you guys, on your guys' like lives that way. I know this looks horrible right now. Don't worry, we're gonna be fixing it. I'm doing a very sort of like sculptural approach with this character right now. Normally when I'm teaching, this is what I teach on the anatomy course, of course. We do step by step and explain all the process and things like that. But in this particular case, we're trying a slightly different approach, which is just go with the flow. Let's see. How do you usually determine the size of the eyes? It's usually like you use the rule of 5. So if you push these things in, there should be around 5 eyes between each side of the element or each side of the face. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less. If you want realistic characters, you can go a little bit smaller than you might think. But at this point, it's also a little bit of, well, not a little bit, quite a bit of experience. But it's usually 5. Like if you create like a face, and you divide it, you should be able to fit 5 eyes on this. Again, I think this is part of the, I'm not sure if that was it's also part of the Loomis method, but it's a very sort of like well-known rule of thumb for eyes. This material I got from Glauco Longhi. You can look him up, Glauco, Glauco. He has a Gumroad and he's got some cool stuff in there. And in the UI he shares, his UI, he has these materials, and I love this one. It's kind of like plastiline, so it just looks nice. And the cool thing is this is not a matte cap, it's an actual like material, so light will work with it. So that's quite fun. Let's make the chin a little bit bigger. The eyes are definitely way too big. So I'm gonna play with just the shape of the eyes, make him a little bit angrier, because you can barely see the eyes, right? And one more thing I'm doing here, this is a little bit well, not unconscious, but I haven't explained it just yet, is the fact that I'm being a little bit more exaggerated on the proportions and things that I'm adding. And this is because I want to 3D print this guy, and I'm gonna 3D print it at a like smallish size. As you can see, it's probably like 10 centimeters or something like that. So you lose a lot of detail. So you need to exaggerate things quite a bit so that when you 3D print, you don't lose as much detail. Don't you think it's too much of a polygon for the initial stage? It depends. If you feel confident controlling this amount of polygons, it's fine. Like we're at barely 200k polygons, so I don't think it's too bad, to be honest. Sophie, the Magic Wizard, thanks for the follow, my friend. Welcome. What's your thought process when it comes to sculpting before starting a project? Can you elaborate on that one, Ashwin? I'm not sure what you mean there. I'm not sure I understand the question correctly. The nose is looking horrible. Let's fix it. Very common thing that I do at this stage is just like erase like complete elements, complete parts of the character if I don't like it. People are very scared of like starting over, and you shouldn't be. As one of my good teachers used to say, polygons are free. No one is charging you extra for creating or removing polygons, so use that to your advantage. And if something's not looking right, just redo it. That's fine. See, for instance, right now I know someone mentioned that the amount of polygons, it's too big. I actually think it's too low, because I want to start doing some details here on the eyes and things like that, and I'm already struggling with the density. This is not holding properly. The topology is not holding properly. I'm using Blender. Do I have to switch to Maya if I want to enter into the game industry? Not necessarily. As I've mentioned before, there's a studio for everyone. Like, there will be some studios that only use Blender. There will be some studios that only use Maya. There will be some studios that only use 3D Studio Max. And it's not that difficult to switch, though. That's something that you guys need to understand. Like, I've been using Maya for 13, 14 years almost. And when I switched to Blender, or not, I didn't switch, but when I started learning Blender, it took me just like 2 months to get comfortable at the tools within Blender. I'm not a master of Blender or anything, but I know my way around it. So if I was If I had to enter a project where they're only going to be using Blender, I could definitely do it. But that's because a lot of the things that you learn for other softwares, such as Maya, translate directly to Blender, okay? Like topology, still need to take care of topology. You still need to take care about proportions and silhouette and materials. So it's only about like understanding that, again, most of the stuff that you're going to be seeing, it's the same thing just with a different name, right? Of course, there are some tools, some scrapes, some plugins that are not present in one or the other. But that's, again, relatively easy to transfer from one point to another. Can you do the next live session on realistic hand sculpting? I covered hand sculpting on the anatomy course. We might do a hand sculpting later. The thing about hand sculpting is that it takes time. See, and I've mentioned this before, like the challenge that I have, guys, with the content that I create here for YouTube and for shorts and everything, is that we are getting used to having all of the information very, very quickly, and people are forgetting that a lot of stuff takes time. So even this bus right here that I'm going to try to finish in a couple of hours, if I was working this instead of a production pipeline, this is something that will definitely take quite a bit more time. All of this thing about like speed sculpting and things like that, it's good to get used to the tool, but it's not how it works on a studio level. How are the anatomy courses going? Many buyers? Yeah, we got a bunch of them. It's been going well. And anatomy is one of those topics that people usually run away from. They're scared of it. But if you've gotten the course, you know that I try to make it as digestible and as easy to process as possible. Here I need to focus on the gesture of the character. Before I start doing folds and wrinkles and things like that, I need to make sure that he looks angry, right? So as you can see, the mouth has this very sort of like angry look. I'm actually going to look for a real reference. So, angry face. Let's see if we can find something. Because it's not the same thing to see a comic book rendition where things can be exaggerated than it is to see a realistic. There we go. This one is perfect. Of course, the face structure is a little bit different, but you can see what parts of the face are getting like pushed up and stuff. I'm gonna go to this cylinder right here. I'm just gonna add like a center line, just to get an idea where the elements are gonna be. Have you ever impressed doctors with your knowledge of anatomy? No. Doctors are way above my pay grade, man. Like, I've talked to some of them, and I'll drop a couple of names here and there that are like, oh, like just like a common person wouldn't know that sort of stuff. But they go way above. Like, actually, as I was mentioning, I was talking to the doctor that was checking my leg, and I asked him a question that I was having about a specific muscle on the leg, and he showed me something that was like, oh, I didn't know that. Something about how the tendon wraps around and generates a different type of like tension point. It's like, oh, it's interesting. They don't cover that on the anatomy for artist books. That's medical stuff. So now doctors are like, yeah, exactly. Docs are like, not bad for a beginner. Like, that's impressive, rookie. But yeah, no, they're on a whole different thing. But I've shown some of my sculpts to some doctors friends of mine, and they do say like, oh, that's quite impressive. You managed to capture this muscle here and that muscle there and that bone there. So is your ZBrush course good for beginners? Which one? The anatomy course? Probably not, because I don't cover ZBrush. I cover anatomy. I expect you to already know like about ZBrush. The Stylized Oni character, yes, that one you can definitely start. The first 2 chapters are very beginner friendly. Like, we covered the basics of navigations and stuff like that. and then we jump into the full character, which we also cover a little bit of anatomy, but it's not as in-depth as the one for the superhero. Could you explain when should I explode a model before baking? Nowadays, you don't really need to explode a model if you're using like the _low_high naming convention with Substance Painter, for instance, or even with Marmoset. Exploding was done when you didn't want to have any sort of like contamination between the different parts of your model, right? So if you have a gun and it has a bunch of pieces and you don't want those pieces to be baking into each other, you would use the exploded method to do so. But again, nowadays with the _low_high sort of like a suffix naming convention, you can pretty much avoid that very, very quickly. No, because even well, yeah, Hudson. I mean, yeah, it depends. If you want to have, if you don't want to contaminate the normal maps, but you do want to have ambient occlusion, you might need to do some exploding things in certain areas. If you don't want to contaminate anything, no normal map contamination, no ambient occlusion contamination, you can do it with just like the suffixes and prefixes, and you just like change those names, and that pretty much solves the whole thing. Why don't learning us likeness as sculpt? We do a little bit of likeness again on the superhero course, on the anatomy course. I use Hugo Weaving, better known as Elrond in Lord of the Rings or Agent Smith in The Matrix. So he's a little bit of the inspiration. Okay, so one thing that we're definitely missing is the mask. So let's go and do the mask real quick. So for the mask, we got a bunch of different ways to do it. I'm just going to do it a little bit more sculptural. So I'm literally just going to mask out the area where it comes out of, which is right around here. Just push it out. Then we're gonna clean it up, of course. I like the curvature, so I think we're in a good position there. Now we clean. Because eventually what we're going to do here is we're just going to add the cut. On the skin right there. So now it's a matter of matching the angles. Any chance for discount courses? Ibanicus! Oh man. Oh man. That's the question that I always struggle with, because I of course want to support you guys and help you when I can, but the thing is, I do think the value is quite on the right spot. You know, like I know as a student sometimes we struggle a little bit with money, but I try to price my courses fairly, and those who have taken them can probably comment here. It's like, hey, it's a lot of good information for the value. Yeah, Black Friday or Christmas. We did a sale a couple of weeks ago when we had our anniversary. So I'm not against sales, but I just don't want to do them all the time. That's one of the reasons why we left Udemy, by the way, because Udemy was doing sales all the time. And here's the thing, and I know you guys are gonna agree with me on this. When someone gives you something for free, you don't value it as much as you do when it actually costs you money. Like when you go to Walmart and you buy a discounted game for $5, you don't even play it sometimes. You just buy it because it was cheap, but not because you really wanted to enjoy it. But when you go and buy your new $60 game, that's when you're like, oh no, this one's really important for me, and you played the shit out of it, right? So there's this weird thing with humans where we don't value things when they are given to us for free. So that's why I don't Again, I try to price my stuff fairly. And that's why we have a bunch of free content here on the YouTube channel as well, right? It's not like I'm gatekeeping anything. It's just, if we want to keep this project alive, we of course need to make sure that works. I'm not loving this. Something's off. Let me try and look for another angle. There we go. This angle right here. Yeah, there you go. See that? So this angle right here, it's very sharp. That's not how the mask works. So this point right here is a little bit higher up. A little bit more straight. And comic book renditions change quite a bit. Like every single author or artist will do things slightly different, so. The Steam Summer Sale was sick. Yeah, I haven't really gotten any games lately. I have a huge backlog of things to play and no time to play them, unfortunately. Well, the good thing is my little girl, she likes playing Mario games. So I've been playing Paper Mario and we've been playing Mario RPG because she likes seeing Princess Peach, right? It's like, oh, we gotta save the princess. So that at least gives me an excuse to play a little bit right there. Should we do open mouth instead? Because I was thinking about doing like grind, like but you could do like Actually, you know what? Because that mouth it's driving me a little bit insane. I'm just gonna close the mouth for now. I'll close the mouth and then we'll open it up again when we're ready. So I want to nail the character first, and then we can worry about that sort of like posing stuff. So here I'm doing what we call the barrel of the mouth, which is just like the main form. And again, don't be scared of doing this. I remember my sculptor teacher, his name is John Brown. It's an amazing sculpture. And he was, when I was taking his class, one thing that he would do is you would be working on your characters, or on whatever it is you were working on, and he would come in with a big spatula and just carve a big chunk out of your face or your chest or something. So it's like, do it again, it was wrong. And he will tell you, of course, like it was wrong here or there, but just like seeing your sculpt being destroyed that quickly with a huge spatula was quite the experience. Because you spend, I don't know, like 6 hours working on that section or something, and he would just come in and destroy it in 2 seconds. You're like, oh, okay. But that's how it works. That's how it is. Let's inflate this a little bit. Like the border was getting a little bit thin. And thin borders can be tricky for 3D printing. There we go. Let's see. You're the best. Even for this, better than my prof. One of my friends wants to start learning sculpting and he bought the Thyros course first by mistake. What would you recommend now? He can start with it or he will have to buy a new course like the Oni. Yeah, I would recommend the Oni first, man. Thyros is an advanced course. Like, that's probably one of the most advanced courses that I ever did with Nextut. And that's actually what I want to do now here. We're working on the live workshop, and the first live workshop that we're going to be launching is going to be a character live workshop where we're going to be doing a character for games from high poly all the way to engine integration. It's probably going to be like a 3-month like workshop with live classes and videos, so it's going to be an interesting approach there. But you need to know the stuff, right? Like, I'm not going to be teaching you how the move brush works here inside of ZBrush. Like, I expect you to have the basic understanding of the basic knowledge of this sort of things. So yeah, Thyros is definitely on the advanced side of things. If he can, it would be great if he could get the Oni course, and then once he finishes the Oni course, he could jump back into the Thyros course. I'm gonna correct the nose there a little bit, keep it a little bit more straight. There's a line that goes from the nose towards the bottom part of the face, and it really helps sell. Look at that. See that line that I just added right there? It's part of the nasolabial fold, but it's on the upper limits of the nasolabial fold. And it's so important. That line is like fundamental to the whole thing. To the whole face structure. Definitely need more resolution, so let's up it up a little bit. Oh, that's way too much. Let's go to like 72. There we go, that's better. Cannonball, great question. I have 3 3D printers. I have an Elegoo Mars 3. I have an Elegoo Neptune 4. And I have the Elegoo Saturn 3. So 2 resin printers and 1 filament printer. The Saturn and the Neptune were gifts by Elegoo. They sponsored us earlier this year and sent us all of those printers so that we can try them out. Amazing, amazing printers. I like the resin printer a little bit more than the filament printer because I do like small scale stuff a little bit more than big scale stuff. But both of them are really, really good. Suggest a course for game props and environments. The course for environments is going to be coming up soon, but the one for props is the one that I have. It's actually done in Blender. It's the Blender AAA. Can you link it, Sarn? They're asking for it on the YouTube chat. That one's really good to understand the basic things about props, retopology, UVs, all that stuff. Do you do 3D modeling all the time as a job, or do you have another job? I mean, I have other jobs related to 3D. But I don't do like cooking or construction work or anything like that. It's all about 3D. I own a small studio along with a partner, and we develop VR and VR, virtual reality, and AR, augmented reality applications for museums and for industries. Recently, I did a demo for firefighters. We're doing like a firefighter training simulation with the MetaQuests. So that's one of my other sort of like jobs. I also teach at universities, and of course this content creation, mentorships, 3D printing. Sometimes like people will ask me, hey, can you 3D print like specific things? 3D design, freelancing. It's a little bit of everything. The name of the course is Blender 3D Artist Forge AAA Weapons. He's gonna link it in just a second there for you, but let me see if I can copy this real quick. There you go. So that link right there, Krishna, that was the first course that we did under this new brand. No, you know what, Hudson? I don't want to do it because then I'm gonna be filled up completely. Right now, I only have one more slot left for mentorships. Because otherwise, I spend the whole day doing mentorships, and I cannot do content or the courses and things like that. So that's like, I love doing mentorship, but that's not something that I want to do like full time. So that's why I don't advertise it as much. But that's also why I want to do the new workshop, because that's gonna work a little bit like a mentorship, right? That would be interesting, but we'll see. We'll see how things move along. What software should I use for retopology? Cannonball, you should use the best software out there, Topogon. Topogon is just like, I love Topogon. It's S tier, as we saw on the tier. It's an extra software. We do have a discount if you get the course. They gave us an educational license discount. So if you get the course on our site, you get, I think, a 20% discount for the full software. It's a one-time payment, and it's just freaking amazing. You guys have seen, like, if you haven't seen me use this, check some of the past live streams, because it's just so good. So good. The needs for 3D are quite extensive. Even NASA has their own. Yeah, and I've done, like, you guys want to hear the weirdest things I've done about 3D? I've done architectural visualization. That's not too weird. I've done 3D printing, of course. I did jewelry as well. That one's a big market, a big unexplored market, I would say. 3D jewelry design. I've done commercials, of course. AR, VR. photogrammetry, so 3D reconstruction there for the museum. Yeah, there's so much stuff. Lord Talon, what's up, man? What is up? Matty painting, that's a great question. So if I'm gonna be doing clothing for miniatures, depending on how complex the clothing is, I will simplify it and I can just sculpt it here inside of ZBrush. But if it's gonna be a very complex piece of clothing, then I'll probably just simulate it with Marbles Designer and then just resculpt it on top here inside the ZBrush. So yeah. It all depends. This is I was having this discussion with one of my students the other day. Anytime you have to do something, right? You can take the simple, easy, fast route, or you can spend a bunch of time doing it. And it will all depend on how much time you have and how much money you're gonna get from it, right? So if it's for your own stuff, I would spend as much time like modeling every single wrinkle, every single thing, because I want to make it as cool as possible. But if it's for a client, the amount of money that the client is paying will tell me how much effort I'm gonna put into the piece. That's how like job works, right? I could spend like let's say I want to do a jacket, right? Like a leather jacket or something like that. Or even something simple, like this one right here. Like someone tells me, hey, I need you to model and do one of this, guys. I'm gonna ask, okay, sure. When do you need it? So time, and how much are you willing to pay for it, right? Money. If it's low time, low money, like they need it for tomorrow, I might just do like a very quick sketch of it inside of ZBrush, maybe a quick C-remesher to just get like proper topology working, even if it's not perfect, and do it again within the constraints of time and money that I have. But if they tell me, no, this is going to be a super important asset, we're going to give you 2 weeks to do it, and we're going to give you a lot of money to do it, I'm going to do Marbles Designer, I'm going to simulate every single wrinkle, I'm going to add every single button, I'm going to add every single stitch, I'm going to make it the best jacket you've ever seen. And it's not that I don't have the skill to do it for the first one. It's just like if you're not paying for it, it's difficult to commit myself with the amount of time to do it, right? I always like the rule of the 110%. So you will throw in 110% of your energy. You're always going to give a little bit of an extra, right, to make it look as nice as possible. But it shouldn't come with or it shouldn't come to a point where you're sacrificing or you're giving more than they're giving you back. So if the amount of money that you're receiving for a specific job does not cover the basic stuff, then, I mean, you're just hurting yourself at that point. Rockstar GFX, what's up, man? Welcome. PC specs. I haven't upgraded my PC in a while. I have a Ryzen 7 5800X, I think. I got 64 gigs of RAM. I did upgrade that recently because we had an issue with the stream a couple of weeks ago. I have an NVIDIA 3080 Ti graphics card. I need to switch my mouse. I actually ordered a new one because this one unfortunately is dying. I'm changing brands. I hope that doesn't backfire on me because I've been using this mouse, this Logitech G600 for a long time because it has the extra buttons on the side, which I use all the time. So yeah, if you can release Blender courses that are more students, see Hudson, that might be something that you might think it will because the Blender user base is bigger because of all of the hobbyists, but we've actually seen that it's not necessarily the case. Because a lot of Blender students, especially when they're just learning, they don't want to invest in the courses. So yes, it does open up yourself or ourselves to another type of market, but we've also seen that type of market is not always as committed to learning and to paying for something valuable as we've seen with other things. But yeah, it's definitely something. Like what I try to do is I always try to include Blender at least as a rendering like engine at the end of the courses as well. So for instance, if we're doing the ZBrush course, the Oni course, we do that. On the Oni course, exactly, the majority of Blender users are like hobbyists. So in the Oni course, the final chapter is always rendering so that you can present your stuff in the best possible way. And in that one, I use Blender and Maya. So I show how to do it on both. Let's add a little bit of a bump here for the ear. So ear's going to be covered right there. No, Chiro, it's fine. Again, using things that you do in tutorials is not bad for your portfolio. The problem is everyone will, like, there's a lot of people that are already using that. So your portfolio becomes non-unique, right? So you're not really showing anything that's unique to you. I remember when I went to Noman for the first time. This was back in 2013, 11 years ago. Or actually, it might have been 2012, to be honest, the first time I presented my portfolio. And the girl there, she taught me a life lesson that was... I still thank her to this day. She was not there anymore when I actually enrolled into Noman. 1 year after, she left somewhere else. But she said, we don't want to see another... Because I had a Joker pastel painting that I have done. And she's like, I don't want to see another Joker. I've seen thousands of Jokers. I want to see your own villain. You want to create a Joker? Create your own version of the Joker. But don't show me another Joker. Because, again, I've seen thousands of them. And that stuck with me. It's like, yeah, that's right. Like, we see this all the time. So that would be my send message for you. I don't want to see the axe again. I did the axe. So, and people have done the axe a lot. The axe is there to show you the tools, to show you the pipeline, to show you the process. But I want to see your own weapon. Why not do a broadsword? Why not do a mace? Why not do a star, or what's the name? A morning star or something like that? Like, use the exact same techniques that you learn with the axe, but do your own weapon. Do your own, tell your own story. Gaming Chinmai says, I'm looking to buy your courses. That's great, man. Yeah, if you want to check them out, they're on the site. You're welcome to enroll whenever you want. I've noticed that you have making more ZBrush content on your new brand, but when you were in Next, you used to do more Maya courses. Why was that? Because they asked me to do that. As you guys know, when I was at Nextdude, a lot of people have the misconception that I was owner or something of Nextdude, and of course I wasn't. So I was instructed to do Maya stuff. And that's what I did. The thing with Maya is that there's a bunch of content out there. And a lot of schools already teach it, so not a lot of schools teach ZBrush the right way, I would say. Do you do game dev? Yes, I do. I do game developing. It's a different kind of stuff. Here, let me show you. Let me see if I have it, because I'm not sure if we have some... Yeah. This is our site. It's not a great site, to be honest. But let me show you here. So for this museum here, we've done a couple of experiences. Where is it? Portfolio. Oh, I don't have it right here. But we've done like an Ice Age experience for the Meta Quest. We've done a desert experience. We've done a dinosaur experience. We did another experience for a very famous child's cartoon musician here in Mexico as well. It's very stylized. It's very there's a lot of hand painted stuff. It's not like this realistic thing that you see right here. You seem to use circular strokes for that. Yeah, I use a lot of circular stuff. Do you have any experience with this kind of stuff? Yes, I've done hard surface before. It's not my main area of focus. There's a weapon I've been trying to do. I have it there on my desktop. But I do more characters. I do a little bit of armor. Well, armors and things like that, of course. But since my stuff is mostly fantasy, that's what I like the most. I don't do a lot of like sci-fi stuff. Clay buildup, is there a reason for that? Yes. So a lot of authors that are teaching ZBrush, they recommend the clay brush, this one right here. The thing I don't like about the clay brush is that if you want to build up a quick amount of mass, like if I want to push like a lot of mass right here, I need to click several times. Click, 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 click. So tap, 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 tap. And every time I tap, I add a new layer. But as you can see, it takes a long time or a bunch of taps to really create something like that. I get impatient when I do that. So I personally prefer the clay buildup because I can just like continuously brush with a single stroke and I'm going to get the volume that I'm looking for. So it's kind of like how I got used to using ZBrush. I'm not saying it's best or worse than the other. It's just, yeah, this is my technique pretty much. It does get a little bit difficult sometimes for students to control the clay buildup because it builds up very fast, very quickly. But to me, it just like resonates with me nicely. Yeah, there's a lot of very talented, and that's a big question. Someone asked me this question on a comment a couple of days ago there on YouTube. It was like, why did you decide to go back to Mexico? And there's two reasons for that. One was that my family has always been very close. So, of course, I missed my family. And I just didn't see myself having a life somewhere else. And the second was, I realized that there was a lot of people here, a lot of friends of mine, that could never get the opportunities to go to big schools or to big places to learn all this stuff. And it felt unfair to me. It's like, these dudes have as much passion or more than I do. So let me share what I know. And that's why I started my little academy here in Mexico. And that's when I found out my passion for teaching. Like, I realized, like, hey, I really enjoy teaching. It's a very fulfilling work. Home is where the heart is. Yeah, that's right. Casey, what's up, man? Welcome. Okay. So this is looking better. Way better. I want to clean up some of these things right here. I don't mind it looking a little bit rough. Kind of looks like a bronze statue, you know, when you get some little indentations here and there. So I don't mind that. Eyes, I really like how they're looking. Now we need to go for the mouth. Okay, so let's put it to the boat. Let's do a boat. Can you help me there, David? I'll do the boat on YouTube, and you do the boat on the on Discord. It's gonna be, the question is gonna be open mouth. We're gonna open the mouth, of course, but is it gonna be like screaming or grinding? There we go. So screaming is like this, right? Like with the open mouth, one row of teeth on the top and the other one on the bottom. And grinding is like this. It's like the like clenching with the teeth or something. Wigu, what's up, man? Hope your name is pronounced that way. In any case, we need to find where the mouth is. So the mouth's probably gonna be, it's a little bit low. There you go. The mouth's probably gonna be there. Thank you, Soren. Thank you very much. Yeah, there we go. Mexican families are always close-knitted. Yes, yes. Not all of them, but it's a, I would say it's one of those stereotypes. Definitely one of those stereotypes. Little Master says, I don't do characters, but I've always been curious how character modelers do the inside of mouths. I have a video on the YouTube channel. It's called Opening the Mouth. And I'm going to show a similar process. On that one, I need to go through other like processes because that's more for like animation. In this case, since it's just sculpture, we can ignore certain things. Grinding is winning on the on Twitch, and screaming is winning on the other one. Oh, guys, I'm gonna have to flip a coin or something then, because it's 50-50. I'm gonna use them in a standard here to push the eyelid in a little bit more. And again, remember, we're exaggerating things a little bit because when we 3D print at a small size, a lot of the detail is gonna be lost. So we need to exaggerate things a little bit more. This is a technique that even Michelangelo used back then in the Renaissance. If you look at the David sculpt, not this David, the David and Goliath one, things are exaggerated. because it was gonna be such a big statue and you were gonna see it from below. So he changed perspectives a little bit in certain things. So he took some artistic liberties. It's not like a one-to-one, like human proportion. I think I added too much volume here. Let me remove some. I don't like the eyes. He doesn't look angry. And Wolverine is always angry. Maya versus Blender. You want to start that debate right now, Beast Rolls of Bishal? So, as I've always mentioned, both tools are really powerful. Right now, at the time of this live stream, 2024, Maya will give you, or Maya is used more as an industry standard tool, so bigger studios will be using Maya or tools related to Maya. Indie studios are using quite a bit of Blender as well, so both of them are really, really powerful, to be honest. Can I Gibbs need to buy that? Eyes are a little bit too far apart. Okay, let's open the mouth. I think that's gonna help us. Screaming actually. Oh, grinding. We had grinding on the other one. Do you think AI will take over? Nah, it won't. It won't, because unless AI can take the criticism that clients or art leads give all the time and figure it out quickly, it's not gonna replace artists. It will simplify or shorten certain processes. So, for instance, you might not need to start base meshes. You can just say, give me a prompt of an elephant base mesh, and you're going to get something that looks close to an elephant, but you're still going to have to go in there and clean it up. So I'm going to rotate the jaw right there, because the mouth does not open up and down. It opens with a curvature, with a hinge. And now that that's open, can really start increasing this. Now here's where things are gonna start getting interesting. Let's do a quick save, because I have not saved, and if this crashes, I'm gonna be very sad. Let's look for another reference here. Screaming face. There we go. This is perfect. This is perfect. So here what I'm looking at is I'm trying to see how far, or like what's the distance between the nose and the upper lip. As you can see, we're close right there. It's a small distance. And then from a perspective, the mouth goes back like that. Just gonna push this in. We can later on like rotate the character a little bit. The eyes change quite a bit as well. Kind of close a little bit, because everything's being pushed up, right? The nasolabial fold gets more intense as well over here. There we go. Yeah, I just saved. What's your method to identify bad normals birds after smoothing, mirroring in Topogon, then into Blender? The Topo course only shows Maya. I'm sorry if you answered this. That's a good question, Seraphin. I would probably do the same thing. Like, there is an option, I think, to see or to visualize the normals inside of Blender. You know, that's a good question. I'll probably do a video about that. But there has to be some sort of like tool inside of Blender. Now, as you can see, the upper teeth remain very sort of like straight, and then the lower teeth are the ones that rotate with the jaw, right? So they'll rotate out like this. we need to open this quite a bit. Yeah, no, don't worry, Surfing. I understand. And here's the thing. Maya has the option for the Indie license. I'm not sure if it's available in your country, because I do know that certain countries don't have access to Maya Indie. But Maya Indie is an excellent way to do that. One thing I'm gonna do here is I'm just gonna rotate the whole thing so that he's sort of like facing like leaning forward. I think that's definitely gonna help. And then I wanna like rotate the head up like this. That's gonna change the gesture as well, and I think it's gonna be useful for the angry look that we're going for. This gets a little bit hollower. And here's where you can exaggerate, especially in this or like sculpts. Like pushing things a little bit more than usual can sell that sort of like angry effect in this case. Jose Pablo says, regarding the coming back to Mexico topic, looking at the price of housing in the US or Canada, was that also a reason for you? No. That was not really a foundation. That was, I would say, a nice side effect or side consequence. The fact that the cost of living here in Mexico is, of course, lower than that of Canada or the US. So thanks to the fact that I was able to get a couple of jobs in US dollars, I can have a good quality of life here in Mexico. But it was not part of my initial sort of like decision. Like that didn't influence my decision. How old were you when you started 3D modeling? 18 years. 19 years? 19. I think I was 19. I was studying medicine. I graduated high school. I got into medicine school here in Mexico. I finished the first year. And then I realized this is not what I want to do with my life. Which was a tough decision at the time as well. And once I made the decision, I started learning about 3D. Actually, the first software that I learned 3D about, like the first tutorial that I downloaded, the first software that I was able to get to start learning was the Cinema 4D. It's a very, very funny thing. That's the only time and the last time that I used Cinema 4D, because fortunately, a couple of just like 1 week later or something, I was able to find a school here in Mexico that was teaching Maya, and I started learning there. But yeah, Cinema 4D was my first 3D software. I remember doing like grass, and I did like a water faucet. It was a fun one. It was fun. Yeah, game art is a very, a lot of people like switch to game art, and I think it's because, one, it's very fun, right? Like it's a very fun career. It's a very fun thing. It allows you to express yourself, which is something that you really can't do too much in other careers. Like I know, for instance, engineers, unless you're like inventing robots and things like that, it's difficult to express yourself. You're just like following the processes and doing, of course, math and calculation. And I'm not saying that that's not valuable work. I'm just saying it's a different type of work. Very important for our society to work on, but it's different. And when someone else asked this question just a couple of minutes ago, one of the things that I wanted to do is, I didn't know I wanted to do 3D. I knew I wanted to do some sort of like games. And the thing that I told my mom back then is like, I want to tell stories. I want to be able to tell stories and share those stories with people. And I found that 3D has been my way to tell those stories. Some people use writing. Some people use like movies and directing and things like that. I found 3D. I found 3D, and that's what I've been doing ever since. This thing is looking very weird, so let me just do a quick quick thing here. We're probably going to be reusing some teeth, because sculpting teeth is one of those things that I hate doing. I hate. Just very time. Again, talking about time and money, it's one of those things that's very, very time consuming. It's Dynamesh. And I don't enjoy it, so we're just gonna keep them simple right here. But we do need to get rid of that area. That's another question we get, like, is it cheating if you use base meshes or if you just download the models? I mean, it's cheating if you don't know how to do it yourself. But I could spend the next 2 hours sculpting every single part of the teeth, or I can just download a set of teeth. That's it. Link says, interesting. Hello, teacher. How are you today? Question. So I purchased your Battle Axe Toot. Where would you say to learn more sculpting practice? If you want to learn more sculpting, I mean, of course, the only course for ZBrush is a good one. But just challenging yourselves. Like, look for a concept online and look for a concept that's manageable, right? Like, not super ambitious. Like, don't try to do a dragon as your first sculpt or something. Just go for something that's within your skills and just try to do it. On the axe we do the volcano, right? Like the volcano and the handle and things like that. Try to do a skull. Skulls are always good practice. Try to do an animal skull. Like look for a hippopotamus skull or look for a I don't know, like a T-Rex skull. Skulls are my go-to exercise for learning about sculpting because they're relatively, there's a lot of information about them, relatively easy and simple to find and to do. And it's just okay. So the mouth is looking good. There. Outside it looks like shit. So let's fix this. Like the fold I added here it was way too much. You gotta keep it a little bit more subtle. Otherwise he looks like an old lady. Here, some people like to change colors here. Like, I don't know, go to like toy plastic. Let's say color. Field object. And that way they get an idea of how things are gonna look. If you feel like that helps you, go for it. What about plugins for creating tongue in ZBrush? I'm not sure if there's one, but there's base meshes. Like a base mesh is what I would probably use for this particular case. Just go online, find a good like tongue or teeth. It's got like insert multi-mesh brushes. There's some even here inside of ZBrush. Did you ever struggle learning 3D? I recently just graduated and love what I do, but during my second year, I almost dropped out. Yes, I struggled quite a bit. I actually struggled more in my first year because the first year at Noman, at least the program that I took, it was a lot of traditional art. So it was painting, drawing, perspective. And since I had absolutely no art experience whatsoever, like I was coming out from med school, so I didn't even know how to draw. It was tough. Like I actually had to present a portfolio after my first year to be accepted into the 3D side of things. With 3D, I didn't struggle too much, but with the traditional art stuff, I did struggle quite a bit. From that program, we were 14. We were 14 students on that program. Only 4 of us got into the full program after that. So it was a tough. There was a lot of competition as well. Sunal, can you ask a question? I don't know. Can you? Of course, man. Of course you can ask a question. When have I ever told you guys not to ask questions? Never, never. Of course you can ask a question, man. I'm scared of going to the 3D school here and struggling with art too, because here the competition is insane. Yeah, but I'm gonna give you a little trick, guys, about competition. You only lose if you give up. That's it. If you don't give up, you're not gonna lose. So I know it sounds really cheesy, really corny, But there's a lot of people that just give up. And I've seen people who are really good, and after a couple of years, they give up. They lost. And if you are maybe not as good, but you didn't give up, you already beat that person who did give up. And people give up for a bunch of different reasons. Personal reasons, emotional reasons, mental reasons, health issues. Like, there's a bunch of reasons, right? So as long as you can keep doing it, as long as you can keep learning, as long as you can keep improving, you're winning. You're still in the race, right? And as I always tell you guys, it's not a competition against everyone else. It's a competition against yourself. Like, I like to take a look at my stuff from 1 year ago and be like, have I improved? Have I improved in my teaching? Have I improved in my shorts? Have I improved in the in my mindset, right? Like, if you are improving, then you're winning. It's very difficult for you to compare yourself to other people because you don't know what other people had as an advantage, right? Because we all have advantages. You might think that you don't have any advantage, but there's people who are in a worse situation than you are. So you need to value that. You need to value the fact that you are in whatever situation you're in and use that to your advantage. How much money a character artist can make from freelance or studio? That's a really, again, broad question, but you can make good money, man. It depends a lot on the things, right? And I'm gonna give you a very simple thing. Well, let's take a simple example. Let's say Legend of Zelda characters concepts. Okay, so let's say someone calls you and they're like, hey, I am going to be doing a new video game, right? And it's like Legend of Zelda inspired or whatever. And I need you to do one character for me. And I want you to do, I don't know, this chibi character right here. Which is very cool, by the way. Like, how much would I charge for something like this? If the client is here in Mexico and they're a small indie studio, I might charge something like $1,000, okay, for the character. Completely like model, rigged, everything. Around there, here in Mexico. If it's for the US, I'll probably go all the way to $2,500, probably like that. So double what I would charge here in Mexico, right? But if it's Nintendo asking, if they're like, hey, we saw your style, we love your style, we want you to do it, I'm gonna charge you way more. That's why I always tell you guys that clients are in this like tiers. It's not, you're not gonna charge the same amount to someone who's part of a big company that you're gonna charge someone who's on a small business. Some people do it that way. Some people will have like an hourly rate, and they'll just like, it doesn't matter who it is that's asking, they'll just charge the same amount of money, right? I don't like following that process because, again, it's not the same. Every single client is different. Every single need is different. How much money they're gonna make from whatever you do for them is gonna be different, and that's where you want to try to get a little bit smarter about how you do it. There's this famous, I'm not sure if it's a TikToker or something, but he talks about this. He's a designer, and he's like, if I design your logo, how much are you gonna how much are you gonna pay for a design of your logo? And someone was like, I'll pay $1,000 for it. It's like, okay, cool. What if I finish the logo in 5 minutes and you love it? Are you still gonna pay like $1,000? And they were like, oh, well, if it took you 5 minutes, then no. It's like, there you go. So you don't charge for the time because you're charging for how much you like the product, how useful the product is gonna be for you. I don't remember the name of this guy. He's on TikTok all the time. But that also happens here in the 3D world. Like, if someone asks you for a render, or someone asks you, like this one, right? Like, if someone calls and says, like, hey, can you do a portrait? Can you do a little bust for Wolverine? Because it's going to be my birthday, and I wanna buy it from you so that I can print it and paint it. Sure. I'll give it to you for, I don't know, $80, $100. I don't care. Just something small, because it's for you. It's for your birthday, right? But if Marvel calls and is like, hey, we want to make a collectible that we're going to be selling, or we're going to be, like, advertising or something, and we want you to do the sculpts. Like, oh, we're talking big leagues now. We're talking about a very different number because you're going to be profiting from this quite a bit. So I'm going to charge you, I don't know, $5,000. And it'll be the same amount of work. It's just a very different, scale of how or where your work is going to be used. The old Mexican saying, como es el sapo es la pedrada. Exactly that, man. Exactly that. Now you also need to factor in, like, are you out of a job right now? Because if you're out of a job and you need anything, then, well, you might need to lower your prices so you can pay your bills and stuff like that. So there's always sacrifices. That's why this is such a gray area, the pricing and things like that, because it's just like there's so many things that can change. Are there gaming companies in Mexico, teachers? Yes, they are, but they're very small, to be honest. And we had a couple of scams in the past couple of years that have been very damaging to our industry. So unfortunately, the studios that are here are very small, but we do have quite a bit of outsourcing as well. So there's big outsourcing companies here in Mexico. So now, you're welcome, man. When it comes to the game industry, these people use aces or linear color space. In the gaming industry, we don't use it as much because we don't do a lot of color grading for the renders. You might use it a little bit later on if you're doing some sort of like filters inside of the engines. But it's not, again, it's not common, to be honest. It's not super common to do that sort of stuff. Okay, so I think we're in a good spot to increase the resolution a little bit more. Now we're 1.5 millions because I want to do the mask line. So here's how I'm gonna do it. I am going to mask out with my mask pen the area where the mask is gonna end. So right around there. We're still in Dynamish, so we can at any point just like fix things or change things. So we're gonna mask all of this out. There we go. Let's create some very tight corners there. Might be a little bit too far out there. Yeah, that's better. And now I'm gonna just use my clay buildup and add a little bit of a border around that area. And just kind of like blend it with the rest of the elements. So that we keep all of the forms and things that we have, but we're not gonna have a nice border edge right there. How do you cleaning the mask? Just with Control and Alt, so that's you're inverting the mask. So in this case, it's cleaning it up. And there you go. Now with the Damien standard, you can go in there, and again, remember, since this is going to be 3D printed and we want to exaggerate things a little bit more, we need to go really in there to create that border, so that that border is visible when we 3D print. We forgot to add the nostrils, so let's add them real quick. And now we can start hardening and doing it. What was it? I did this method, but I don't like the result. Which method? Ah, yeah, retopologize, yeah. How much the VFX artists in Mexico makes? Who shoot music videos in green screen? That's a tough one. Again, it all depends, because I've seen people doing like the bare minimum, like basic salary here in Mexico, and I've seen people making bank as well. So it's a lot about marketing. See, if there's one advice that I can give you guys about the real world, is that we as artists, we definitely need to learn a little bit more about marketing as well. Because we sell or we do something, we create a product, we create something that's really valuable. But sometimes we don't value that ourselves. And if we don't value that ourselves, everyone else or no one else is going to value it either. And that's unfortunately something that happens in art quite frequently, because we're very passionate. Like our industry, our members, us as artists, we tend to be very passionate about what we do. And due to that, it's very easy for those who are not as passionate as us to take advantage of us. Because we're just happy. We're just so happy to be doing superheroes and characters and fantasy and dragons and things like that. They don't care. Business people, they don't care. They're like, oh yeah, it's a cool dragon, but I'm gonna sell it for $1 million, even if it only costs me $200 to get it from this guy right here, right? So that's why you gotta develop a little bit of a thick skin and be able to defend yourself as well, because we Again, since we're very passionate about what we do, people can take advantage. People will and do take advantage of artists, unfortunately. Why do some game characters seem soulless? Is it a question of expression or modeling texture? It's a problem of direction, art direction, mainly. And again, this is where we get into the debate of, is it the artist's fault or is it the director's fault? Is it the producer's fault? Whose fault it is? And unfortunately, I think it has to do with the direction of who has the money, right? In this industry, whoever has the money calls the shots. That's how it works. Is it fair? Is it unfair? Hey, it's not for me to decide. But whoever has the money calls the shots. So if Disney wants to make a new superhero movie and they want to make specific decisions about their new characters, they have the money, they call the shots. Yes, the director will have some sort of like say in how things are working, but unfortunately, there's a lot of ego attached to projects and things like that. And sometimes you as an artist will not be okay with some of the decisions. But at the end of the day, it's also a job. That's what I'll tell you guys. Yes, we need to be very passionate and we need to learn and have like amazing skills and things like that. But you guys need to remember that this is a job at the end of the day, okay? Whatever you do as part of a job, detach yourself from it. Do your best, create awesome stuff, but it's a job, okay? It's just your paycheck. On your own things, the things you're passionate about, spend as much time as you want. But other things, don't fight for it. It's not worth it. It's normal for a retopologized model to not have the exact quality of your high poly, but it should be pretty close. Retopology will also make it a lot easier. Yes, that's right, Mega Master. Thought it was a question, but no, you're clarifying how it is. Yes, that's how retopology works. Okay. Kind of like where it's going. I feel like we need a little bit more expression. I think it's the lips that might need a little bit more fixing. Just straighter lines. There we go. Do I need to play games to become a 3D artist in game arts? Well, I mean, yes. It would be a little bit weird for you to be making games if you don't like games. It's not impossible, but it's just weird, right? Let's see, Amido 22. Yes, that's a good question. I mean, he's asking about whether you should have multiple portfolios or something like that. Rather than having multiple portfolios, man, what I would recommend is if you are applying to a specific position and they're looking for a specific thing, like let's say you're applying to a studio and they're looking for a hard surface modeler, and you send them your portfolio, you have environment stuff, you have character stuff. I mean, they can see through it and be like, okay, if he was able to do this character in particular, then he can do the kind of stuff that we're looking for. But it's easier if you just send them a portfolio or a link to the specific pieces that you feel match what they're looking for the best, right? So it's important to tailor your portfolio to that. And that's something that I've seen HR people talk about quite a bit, where people will just apply to work to jobs and they won't even read what the company do or what the project's going to be about. They just apply because they just want to get a job. And they're like, yeah, sure, like I understand, but at the same time you need to be mindful about where you're going, right? Like you cannot just like blindly apply to every single position just to get a job. You should tailor your stuff to the specific studio that you want to go for. I don't recommend freelance sites, and I don't recommend them because I have not used them. I know some people have used things like Upwork and Fiverr and things like that. Since I haven't done it, I couldn't tell you whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. Most of the freelance stuff that I've gotten has been through word of mouth. So I do a job for someone, and then that someone recommends me to someone else, and that's how we keep moving forward, right? So yeah. And the problem with those sites is I know there's a lot of scammers as well. People who say they're gonna pay you and they don't pay you. People that expect you to do a lot of work with very little money. So that's why I recommend be careful with those sites. It's easier when you know who you're working with, or you know at least the connection. Aldi, thanks for the follow, man. Yeah, so what I mean by freelancing is just offer your services to people that you know around you. Like if you have, I'm gonna give you a couple of examples, right? My sister and her husband, they own a little, well, not little, it's a good sized kitchen and restaurant. So they sell food. That's what they do. If I ever need to get like a little bit of an extra money, I could just go with them and be like, hey, what if we do a little 5-second, 10-second animation in 3D with some of your most like famous dishes or something, so that you can upload it to socials, and let's figure out a deal, right? It could be like, hey, you're gonna pay me this much, or you're gonna pay me this much, and then you're gonna give me the rest with food. You know, like you always find a way to work with someone, and then I do that animation for them. And a couple of weeks later, someone asks them, hey, we saw your animation on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever. It was really cool. We have a business and we sell donuts. Do you know who did it? So that we can call him. And they're going to give them my contact. And that's how people get to know you. That's how you start getting the sort of like freelance gigs, by doing one thing. And if you do it really good, people will notice. And then they're going to try to find who did that. They're going to call you. Some of them you're going to be able to make up or have a deal. Some of them won't have the resources or the vision that you have, and in that case, well, that's it. You move on to the next one, right? But that's how life works, especially as a freelancer. Okay, I think we're in a good position. We can start adding a little bit of detail. Do you have any plans on Unreal beginner tutorial? The next course, the what's the word? The environment course will cover basics of Unreal. We'll probably do a little bit of blueprinting as well. But I do expect people to know at least navigation. Like I don't want to be teaching like this is how you move, this is how you open the project, this is your blueprint. Like that sort of stuff you can find on the official Unreal Engine like site, and you should be, if you want to get into that, you should already be doing that. That makes sense? Like I wanna start evolving the content into a little bit more of an advanced stuff. I think we already have enough like introduction level courses, and you need to put in the work. You need to put in the work. I just watch people play games on YouTube and just love the art of the games. Like I mean, are you an artist, Paras? Like, do you draw, paint, sculpt, or something? Because yeah, you can be a non-player. Like you might not play games. But if you know, like, it's important that you know about the games, like what they are, which are the famous ones right now, things like that. That sort of stuff, it's, I would say, fundamental if you want to go into the industry. Let's start working on a little bit of details. And again, remember, we're going to print this as small, so you don't have to, like in this case, I don't have to do all of the details, like the super fine details, because we're not even going to see them. This is for 3D print. I hope to be able to release it during August, Krishna. August is my deadline for that course. I've already started working on it. Actually, you guys can help me out with this, because this is a question I have. Environment art is a little bit tricky because there's a lot of technical things about it. So I've been recording, I think I recorded like a couple of chapters now, but the first chapter is very theory heavy. It's like 40 minutes of just explaining how to do things, how to think about things, the reference, the grid, like all of these important things. Do you guys mind, when you're watching a tutorial, do you guys mind when there's a lot of like theory content? Do you find that boring? Because I find that it's necessary. I know it might be boring, but I think it's necessary. I just want to make sure that I'm not doing too much theory that's gonna make people super boring. You don't mind. That's great. Okay. I love it, Parasis. Okay, okay, good. That's good feedback. Because yeah, I was getting a little bit where it's like, oh, this might be too much. Because again, like for the first 40 minutes of the course, there's no 3D. It's just like me talking about how to approach certain things, how to do it, how to the things that you need to think about, how to analyze the concepts, how to break down certain elements. It's a lot of that, and then we start doing 3D. Awesome, awesome. Did you check the bodycam game graphics? I have not, Samil. Explanation is good. I don't mind that approach. Okay, cool, cool. That's good. Welcome, man. Let's add some pores. So I'm gonna go with my standard brush. Let me move this thing to the side. Jordy is a 69. What's up, man? Welcome to the stream. Alphas. See, the simplest, sometimes, like, just this bumpy skin right here is more than enough. So I'm gonna increase intensity. Now, again, I'm gonna exaggerate here things a little bit because of 3D printing. Because when we 3D print, all of this is gonna be lost quite a bit. So I need to exaggerate the depth of this pores right here, so that we don't lose the detail as much when we 3D print. I might have gone out a little bit too much, to be honest. So I'm just gonna grab my smooth brush. I'm gonna reduce the intensity a little bit to just slightly tap it out and soften the pores a little bit right there. There we go. Better. Let me bring my reference back. Now on the suit, he's got two important lines, right? Two like this line's right there. So they're gonna be, well, we definitely need to work on the anatomy of the suit first. There we go. I'm gonna change the alpha to a round alpha, alpha 12. This is where the clavicles are gonna be. They tend to be quite straight towards the shoulder. Over here. The chest muscle is actually divided into three. It has three main like volumes. They all start close to the sternum, right around here, and they go towards the arm. And I have another one right here. It's this big fibers that you see right there. All of this is covered on the anatomy course, by the way. Small little commercial there. There we go. Went to sculpt and went to model for like armor pieces and stuff. Nowadays I sculpt most of the time. Like I think I sculpt 80% of the time, and then I just retopo because it's easier than to do box modeling and traditional sculpting. But it depends on your pipeline, man. Like some people really like box modeling and traditional modeling inside of Blender or Maya. Abe teaching inspires the creative forward. I'm not just saying this. He has a really trusting teaching approach, and we trust him. Thanks, man. See, this week was a tough one. And I want to share this. This is not the kind of stuff that I share all the time because it's a little bit on the depressing side. But the leg accident has really changed my perspective. And they say that. They say, once you break your leg, you see the world differently. Well, I don't know if that's going to be my case, but since it has limited my movement quite a bit, I've been slow in everything. I cannot move as fast, of course. I cannot record as much, and I've been feeling quite useless this past couple of months or weeks. And it's been tough. It's been tough. But I've been learning as well. It's like, okay, you gotta be patient with yourself. It was an accident. It's not your fault. You just gotta like just keep it cool. Try to learn like the same advices that I give you guys all the time. Try to learn from other sources. Try to do other things that you can do, like that kind of stuff. It's been interesting, and teaching. I really like teaching. I love teaching, as I've mentioned before. And the fact that I haven't been able to record as much or teach as much this past couple of weeks has hurt me quite a bit. It's like, oh man, I just wish I didn't. I wish I didn't broke my leg so I could be normal, right? But it's one of those things that you just gotta deal with. So listening to these messages, man, it's really encouraging. Thank you. Like I'm glad that the things that I'm doing, even if it have been a little bit slow this past couple of days, are still valuable to you guys. I think that even the sci-fi harsher for looking armor is faster to sculpt and retopo. Yeah, exactly, Mustache. Most of the time, like if I'm doing like even this, like if I had to do this thing right here, the like super crisp and super clean, I'll just do this and then retopo, and then once I retopo, I'll just clean the loops. Then trying to start with a cube and push every single little point up and down. I think we can increase the curvature there a little bit. And I think it was Ryan Kingsley that said that nowadays in most game studios they focus more on the high poly. So they want you to make amazing looking high polys first, and then you worry about the retopo. No, I'm getting better. Like I mentioned, I went to the doctor last Wednesday, and things are healing nicely. Like I'm not gonna need any surgery or anything. So thank you for your wishes. And I know it's just about being patient. Well, unfortunately, I'm a very impatient person. We lost a little bit of definition with the smooth on some elements, so I'm gonna re-sculpt them here with the clay buildup. There we go. And superheroes are always exaggerating things, right? So for instance, here I'm pushing things in and out quite intensely, like carving into the muscles. Like if he has zero body fat. In reality, this is not how the body works. There's always layers of fat and skin that are not gonna give you the same sort of like effect. But again, in superheroes, tends to look very cool when things are like super intense. Here on the neck, I am gonna like add some of this sort of like fibers to showcase he's quite angry. This has been all symmetrical so far. One of the advices that I always give, let's cut the base already. One of the advices that I always give is, oh, wait a second, that's not looking good. Chest is way too small for the head. Is to break the symmetry on the things that are on the center. There we go. Looks good. So, for instance, here, I'm gonna break the symmetry, and I'm just gonna add some cloth folds going across the pectoral muscles. You know, but they're not gonna be symmetrical. So that just breaking symmetry right there can really help to sell the fact that this character is asymmetrical. We can add some cuts and stuff as well in just a second. Now we need to add the two lines, so I'm just gonna mask them out. There we go. Have you ever been given a 3D project to do for work that you look and go, oh shit, how am I? Yeah, all the time, man. All the time. Like, if I go online right now, I'll do it. Because that's the thing. A 3D modeler is not someone that knows how to model everything. A 3D modeler or a 3D artist is someone that can take any concept and has the tools to solve that concept. Does that make sense? That's the like the secret of a 3D artist. So let's invert that, and in this case, I'm just gonna use a little bit of inflate. And then I'm gonna invert the mask and carve in at the very border with Damien. I'm gonna be cutting in the back of the character as well in just a second. Do you guys want me to make this file available for you so you can download it and print it yourself? If you have a 3D printer, of course. Because I can do that. There we go. So yeah, let me show you. Character concept art. Like, let's say someone sends me this concept right here, which is pretty cool. Fantasy concept. Like, immediately I'm like, how the hell am I gonna do the cloth? Like, I know how I'm gonna do the cloth, but I need to think about how am I gonna be layering it. Am I gonna sculpt it? I'm gonna use marvelous. Like, I need to question myself, like, how the hell I'm gonna do this? Especially for like where I struggle the most is, of course, like sci-fi things or more mechanical looking things. Like, I don't know, this guy right here. Like, how am I gonna do that? Arms has so many pieces. Am I gonna do that individually? I'm gonna sculpt it one on top of the other. Like, every single time I see a character, I will see pieces and I'm like, okay, how am I gonna do that? And again, I know what process I'm gonna be using, but I've never done something like that, so I need to think about the process. And sometimes I even need to go and buy a tutorial or look up a specific process or technique to be able to solve it. So it's part of the deal. Let's clean up a little bit of the muscles on these things, so they look a little bit sharper. No, it's very, very common, man. Like, very, very common. But again, like, I remember there was a point in my career where there were things that I definitely had no idea on how to even start. That's the problem. Like, when you're handed something and you don't even know how to start, that's tough luck. Like, you're like, damn, okay, I'm gonna have an issue here because I'm gonna have to learn a skill that I don't even have. On the concepts that I just show you, I have the skills to do those things. I just need to find a workflow or a specific path to do them. But I remember when like, one of the first jobs, and I'm not gonna show you this because it's one of my the things that I'm ashamed of because I did a horrible job. One of my first freelance jobs was a game, and they wanted me to do fur, and I didn't know how to do fur. I didn't even know how to do haircuts at that point, and I was already graduated. I've already graduated, but I didn't know how to do that. And I said, yeah, I can do it. They paid me and everything. That's why I feel so ashamed, because the end result was horrible. Well, not horrible, but not as good as I would have liked. And I had to learn how to do haircuts, and I had to learn how to do fur and things like that. And I delivered what I could at that point, but I was like, no, this is not good. It looks horrible. It looks like shit. What was my lesson there? I need to learn how to do fur. And after that job ended, I used part of the money that I got from that job to buy myself courses and softwares to be able to do fur. So that's like the worst situation that you can be in. Like, they ask you to do something that you really have absolutely no idea how you would approach it or how to even start. And with my experience, I've learned that you have two options there. First of all, you just say, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not gonna be able to help you. Let me talk to someone that might be able to help you, and you just send them to someone else. Like, you accept, and that's, I think, one of the best things that you can do. And the other one's a little bit more risky, but what you can do is you can subcontract, right? Like, if someone sends me a concept piece and I see it and I'm like, oh man, I don't know how I would do it. That's not my area of expertise, but I know someone who does it. I can be like, sure, I'll do it. And then I hire someone else to do it for me. That's how business works. So it's called subcontracting. So, but yeah, it's that's more business stuff. And as a freelancer, if you are thinking about going the freelance route, you do need to learn about business things as well. Okay, cool. I like this. I like how this is going. Let's go with the teeth a little bit. So I think we need to just add a little bit of something here. Let's Dynamesh and increase the layer resolution quite a bit. How are you so confident with sculpting? Well, I've done this for a lot of years, man. I've done sculpting for more than 10 years, so... You do get that confident the more you do it, of course. But, practice. And one big tip that I can give you, man, don't be scared of fucking up. Because when you make mistakes, that's when you learn. Those teeth are, of course, way too big, so let's isolate them real quick. Let me do on other groups. There we go. The hell? Yep, that looks more like it. Let's do a quick save. Fail faster. Tadeo is right here. Tadeo is on the house. I've mentioned this before, but for those of you that are new to the channel, Tadeo here, he was one of my first students back in 2016, if I'm not mistaken. He's one of the OGs. Carlos says, question, I saw you didn't do much blocking. No, in this case I was just going a little bit more sort of like free flow sculpting, so I didn't spend as much time doing blocking as you mentioned. It depends on the project, right? So not every single project is going to be this way. This one's, again, a little bit more free form sculpt. Now, as you can see, I'm not doing individual teeth because that also becomes complex to 3D print later on. But I do want to have a little bit more of a normal density. So if I'm not mistaken, let me look for reference, because I always mess this up. Yeah, so we have 4 small ones and then 2 little, like, fangs. So I'm gonna make this a little bit fangier. And on the top, we also have 4 small ones and then the fangs. This one ended up being a little bit too big, so... Yeah, subbing and liking, guys, that's one of the best ways you can support it. The channel. Joining the Discord if you want to hear about the later news. All that cool stuff. We're almost... I'm not sure how close we are, but we're very close to 20... Is it 22 or 23,000 subs? I think it's 23? No, I think it's 22. I think we're very close to 22,000 subs here in yeah, there you go, 22. Just a lot. It's a lot. When do you think it's a good time to switch from ortho to perspective? I never work with perspective, because as you can see here, it distorts things quite a bit. I always work with orthographic view. I almost never work with perspective. Sometimes I work with perspective, but most of the times, this is something that, again, I've been doing for so long, I'm not even sure if I'm right or not, but it has worked for me. I'm really looking forward for the movie next week, right? I think it's next week, the Deadpool Wolverine movie. We got a mess there on the teeth. We gotta fix that. Oh my god. What's going on here? All of that is very, very problematic because it can be a huge mess on 3D printing later on. You missed the part of the eyes? What do you want me to explain? I didn't really do... Like, I've been working on the eyes throughout the whole live stream, man. When did you start at 3D sculpting? Ah, Tadeo, they're asking you. So do we make a blockout model for game production or directly start sculpting? Again, it depends. Every single person has a different workflow. For this particular exercise that I'm doing today, I just started sculpting. I didn't do a blockout or anything. In production, I normally like to do a blockout because blockouts can be very helpful to see how things are going to look even before they're finished. But again, it varies. It depends on the production. Definitely need to do a little bit of work here on the tongue. Let's just add a little bit of texture there. The center line. So again, it's gonna be so small. It's barely gonna be noticeable. There we go. I kind of feel like it would look a little bit nicer grinding, because just like screaming like this without the hands looks weird, I think. But we spent so much time on this that it's gonna be difficult to go back. Evliel battery 20%. We're still going. We're still going. We got 30 more minutes. 30 more minutes. Let's see. Trying to see what else we can add, or if we just jump and do a little bit of 3D printing preparation. Let's go. The mask needs more polish. Yeah, we can. I actually like the sort of like texture that I sometimes leave on my elements. I don't like when things are like super pristine. Sometimes there's like a middle line going down the mask. Pee-wee! Thanks for the sub, man. Yeah, see that like middle mask right there? I think that one could be an interesting addition. I don't know. No, now that I see it, I don't like it. Let's just add maybe a couple more wrinkles here. Maybe some battle damage. Yeah, I agree. Maybe a little bit more volume on the cheekbones. There we go. Thank you, Hudson. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend as well. See you back on the next one. I'm gonna use Stream Dynamic to sharpen that cheekbone a little bit there. Like, these plane changes are also very fun to paint, because you can very easily see the change in silhouette there. Now here, so this thing stands, we do need to add a cube on the back. Like that. Like a little bit of a support. There we go. Perfect. We can make it a little bit longer. I just want to make sure that it looks flushed with. There we go, something like that. Ah! I'm gonna have to do some trimming here then. No, there we go. That's what I was looking for. We not end that pull. There we go. There we go. Okay. So let's do a little bit more work here on the suit. And then we're going to jump and prepare this in 3D printing. It's going to be a simple preparation. Very, very simple, to be honest. Do we do battle damage? What do you guys think? Should we add some like cuts and things like that on the suit? Some like tears and things like that. Gonna go a little bit more heavy here on this part. Juan Guerrero says, if I want to look for clients for 3D printing, what do you recommend me? Is there any platform that specializes? Yes, there's two platforms that I would say are really like big on the 3D printing side of things and where you can get some commissions. Patreon is of course one of them. So if you create a Patreon and you start selling your designs right there, I know a lot of people are making a good living out of that. And then My Mini Factory is the other one that I normally use, which is another place where you can create like a virtual store and then you sell your models right there. And the way it usually starts is you start creating models, people like them, and then they'll call you and they're like, hey, I need a commission for this or for that. Some people do commissions, others don't, so. Head needs to be a little bit more elongated. Maybe just the jawline. Just a little bit there. Polyad, thanks for the follow, my friend. Welcome. Okay, we're in a good position. I'm gonna add a little bit of like just general dirt and stuff here on the back, just because I don't want to have like areas that are completely smooth. I always like to have a little bit of texture. You said it looks a little bit more interesting. There we go. We can make him slightly angrier. There we go. Kosakisu! Thanks for the follow, man. Drup says, hey, I'm a modeler myself, but I've never done sculpting. But if I learn, I just sculpt in ZBrush and use Quadro and Mesh to create. Yep, that's it. Yeah, we've done that before, man. I mean, we have the full course on retopology about that process. But yeah, that's what a lot of people are doing nowadays. They'll just sculpt armor, they'll just sculpt cloth, like everything, and then they retopo. For games, right? Like this is if you're doing games. In film even, like you could potentially do that for film as well. Okay, let's go into the 3D printing process. Okay, guys? Wanna do this so that I can leave this ready, and I'm gonna go down, get my 3D printer ready, and then I'll publish a story later today on Instagram on how the final result went, okay? So what I need to do here for 3D printing is I need to combine everything. So I'm just gonna say mesh, merge, and just merge visible. And this is gonna be the merge element right here. I'm gonna use my knife curve again to like make sure that all of the bottom part is completely leveled. But before that, we did need to do a very high amount of Dynamesh resolution. This is to make sure that all of the elements are one like watertight mesh. This is very, very important. If you do it at a high enough poly count, you're not gonna have any issues with the what's the word, with losing detail or anything. Now we can do this down here, as you can see. We're gonna have a perfectly flat bottom. There we go. It looks better than in the picture. Thanks, man. See, again, this is something that I mentioned. I don't care if it looks better or not. I care that this is mine. It's my version, my interpretation, my story for Wolverine, right? Like, this is my sculpt for Wolverine. And that, I think, gives values to things quite nicely. There we go. Okay, so now that this is combined, we of course need to decimate. So I'm gonna decimate all the way down to 250k points. That should give me a good amount of resolution. Just wait a little bit there. So do I have to bake the sculpt on? Yeah, of course you bake. Of course you bake. It's gonna take a little while, a couple of minutes. And then we're gonna go into ZBrush, which is the software that I use for the preparation of the 3D prints. Almost there, almost there. There we go. So from 5 million polygons, we're gonna jump all the way down to 250k points, which is about 500,000 polygons. There you go. And as you can see, we barely lost any detail. Like, most of the detail is gonna be there. It's gonna look really, really good on the information. But oh my god, we got a little bit of an issue right there. Why do we have that issue? That shouldn't be there. Ah, that's weird. I'm gonna have to try it again. Okay, I'm gonna try something different. I'm gonna do pre-process current. And then we're gonna do like 30% or something. One question. I used to work a lot of study and work, like 10 to 15 hours a day. But now, as now I'm in third year, I lost my work capabilities. What do I do? Oh, that's a tough one, man. And it happens to all of us. And I actually remember when I was at school, all of our teachers told us that. They were like, hey, try to learn as much as you can right now when you're at school, and that's your only responsibility. Because once you start working, it changes everything. So learning becomes way more complicated. My best advice is try to at least set up half an hour every day to learn something new, watch a tutorial, read a book, something related to 3D so that you can keep improving. Personal projects can become very difficult to do because you're not gonna have time to do or energy to do it, and that's fine as well. If you don't feel inspired to do it, don't push it, because then you're gonna be doing things that you're not gonna be feeling comfortable with. But yeah, it's definitely a very common and very tough situation to be in, man. Now, it's just your first year into the job, so as you get more experience, you're gonna see that you're gonna start getting a little bit more time here and there, and that should give you some options to keep on working. Why is it doing that? Oh, that's very annoying. Okay, that's fine, because we've already pre-computed, so maybe if we increase the decimation a little bit. Oh, still getting that. Okay. So, no big deal. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to lose a little bit more height on the character, unfortunately. But we're going to have to cut those elements with the curve tool again. And this is already decimated, so... No. Huh. It's really weird. It might be because the corners are so sharp. And one possible solution is just to bevel them a little bit. That could work. Let's try this. Merge visible. There we go. Dynamesh at a high resolution. There we go. Cut this so that we have a flat surface. There we go. Dynamesh. I think I missed the second Dynamesh. That could have been the issue. There we go. So we Dynamesh again. And now let's try this T50K again. If I want to look for... okay, yeah. I answered that one already. Can I texture in Substance even if I don't have any UV? No, you need topology, man. How are you going to texture if you don't have UVs? Where is that information going to be stored? Remember, UVs are a way to store information within an object. So that's why we use the UV maps. They store the color information for each pixel of the polygons, right? So you definitely need UVs. There is a way to do polypaint. I'm not sure if you can do PTEX paint inside of Substance. I don't think you can. I think Mari allows it, and I also think that 3D Code allows it. But yeah. Is Noman worth going to? What job did they land you after graduating? I actually didn't go through the like job process with them. I got a cool freelance gig immediately after graduating, and I worked with those guys for like a year. Actually, Tadeo worked with those guys as well. It was called Warforged Games, where we were doing a prototype for a game. Unfortunately, the game never came out, but it was very cool experience. And immediately after I graduated Noman, I came back to Mexico, and that's when I started my my little studio here, and I just started looking for my own stuff here locally. So is it worth going to it? If you can afford it, yes. Back when I went, it was not as expensive because the dollar was not as pricey. But yeah, it's definitely worth it, man. It's one of the best experiences of my life. There we go. That works perfectly fine. So let's export this. Desktop. Let's call this Wolverine. Yeah, right now the industry is going through a very rough patch, guys. Very, very, very rough. It's a very tricky situation, and if you go online, you're gonna see that this is not only happening on our industry, it's happening on the BFX industry, it's happening on the concept art industry, it's happening on the design industry. It's tough times. I'm not gonna lie. And one of the advice that I've seen people give, and it's perfectly valid, is if you need to find a job on a different type of like work, like not even art related, like if you need to go and do something different just to stay afloat and pay the bills for a while the industry sort of like relaxes, go for it. Because unfortunately, yes, we are on tough spots right now. What's the best advice I can give you? Be as prepared as you can, because here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people that are complaining about the state of the industry, and then I check their portfolios and it sucks. It's like, dude, you cannot be complaining about not finding a job if your portfolio sucks, right? Like you need to put your part. But I've also seen like really good artists who are struggling even though their portfolios are really good. So yeah, it's unfortunate again, a situation. But again, you gotta try to do the best you can. No, you don't need to retouple. No, this is it. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna grab this thing right here, and I'm just gonna like place some supports and 3D print. First of all, I'm gonna hollow this, of course, so otherwise it's gonna waste too much resin. So this is a process called hollowing, where it calculates all of the hollow elements of your object, like so. There we go. And when you hollow an object, you always need to add drain holes. Very common mistake that people forget about. You need to add a couple of drain holes so that it can wash properly from the whole thing. Come on. Need one more drain hole. It's really weird. Let me change the depth. That's really well. Anyway, 2 drain holes in that place. Should be more than enough. It could be because of some angles that we have there. Now, this is a little bit of a pro tip. Try adding a small drain hole at the very top so that you don't get any suction effect. Could be like small, like 2 millimeters is far enough. And that one's very easy to just fill in and sand later on. go. Now this blocks we don't need. You can print the blocks as well, but we don't really need it. This one's gonna be 8 centimeters, I think. So it's gonna be yay big. After an internship, this yes, internships and anything that you can add to your curriculum can always help you in your career. Like, remember, guys, the way to get the job is the company is looking to fill a specific spot so that they can solve the issue that they have at hand, which is create the video game, create the movie, create a commercial, create whatever. You need to provide as much information and as much value to the company so that you can fill that slot, right? That's what they're looking for. So if your skills are not up to the level that they're looking for, you're not filling that slot, they're not gonna hire you. If you have those skills and you have experience in other things, like they see that you have been working on other projects and other commercials, you've done other things, that's when you become valuable. It's like, yeah, we need this guy because all of these qualifications. At the beginning of your career, of course, it's difficult to get those qualifications because you're just starting. But as you get more and more experience, all of those things add up, and that's how you become a more valuable asset to the company. Am I excited or worried about AI? I'm excited. I think there's a lot of things that it's going to be very helpful for, but I understand where the fear comes from, because there's definitely things that are scary about AI. And but as I mentioned before, and a lot of people seem to share my opinion about this, AI is one of those things that, and I think actually, was it the Washington Post, or like there was a big newspaper not so long ago that talked about the fact that AI is not really solving the issues. Like, it's not really being worth it. Like, you spend too much money and the results that you get still need to be cleaned up, and you could have saved that money and just do it right from the first time if a human was doing it. So I think it's definitely going to be there. Like, it's not going anywhere, but I don't think it's as scary as it was like a couple of months or last year when we were seeing like the first things. Like, you start to realize and see where AI is being used, and you realize it's not as good, right? So okay, I'm just gonna be very careful here with this teeth right here. Teeth are always a tricky area. So here what I'm doing is I'm looking for islands, which are points of polygons that just like pop into existence. Like there, see that? Oh, so these two little legs right there can break relatively easily. I'm just gonna add some small supports to make sure that they print. Once they merge with the whole like big island, there's no longer an issue. It's always important to check for it. Yeah, there we go. That's pretty much it. So now we just go back here, we slice. Elegoo, Cheeto. I've been using Elegoo 3D printers for the past 6 years, and I've always had a good experience with them. Okay, 50 right there. Both exposure is gonna be 25, and exposure time is gonna be 1 point. Let's try 1 point. 1.35. And yeah, that's it. As you can see, it's gonna take 6 hours to 3D print this, and it's gonna take 100 milliliters of volume. Oh god, my god, freaking allergies, man. What happens to the supports on the inside of the element? They are there. They're left there. You don't need to do anything. They're just there and they remain there. You can fill the object then with like Plastiloco or whatever to give it more weight if you need to, but yeah, they just remain there. You don't see them again. In my company, they asked me to do an interior model of an office, and we don't have render farm, so it's taking too long to render. They say to do it in Maya hardware instead of Arnold, but it was a huge compromise with quality. I would try doing Viewport 2.0 or Marmoset, or even like export to Blender with the new Eevee, so that you can do hardware but you do it with more realistic stuff. Even Unreal Engine might be a good option because it's real time and you're not gonna have to wait for render. So yeah, you may be looking for some sort of real time solution, but yeah, don't use Maya hardware. It's horrible. Yeah, Elegoo are quite affordable. They're like on the hobby side of things, and you can get some very cool results. So yeah, that's it, guys. I'm gonna stop it right here. I'm gonna be, of course, 3D printing this, and as I mentioned, it's gonna be there on my Instagram stories soon. So make sure to check them out. Make sure to follow me on Instagram if you are not following. And I'll be seeing you guys back on the next week with more videos, more shorts, more stuff. This rerun will also be available soon, so make sure to sub here in the YouTube channel if you missed some parts of today's live stream. And that's pretty much it. The best way to support us is, of course, by liking, sharing, subscribing here on YouTube, and checking our premium courses on our site. We're going to be linking them here shortly. Thank you very much, David, as well, for the help during this stream. I hope everyone has a great weekend. I'm going to get some rest, prepare more stuff for next week, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.